This is part two of the sit down lesson because the video had cut short as I was reading that news article as it was an interview of the president of Iran. He was making that statement that the tensions are really stirring up between you seeing the increasing alliance between the United States and Israel, and then tensions on potentially going to stir up between Iran versus Israel Defense Force and the United States armies. And then it was saying an interview from the president of Iran, because he had an interview. He was saying that from our the news article that I just got through reading, he was saying that if in case that the United States armies and the Israel Defense Force armies, that they do another attack, and President Iran said they're going to be ready. They're going to be ready now more ever than before. So that shows you that hey, so it's like what was that not too long ago? I would say like about 2 weeks ago. About it was rumors reported from the news article saying that a potential nuclear strike might a nuclear strike of the United States armies and the Israel Defense Force armies potentially might strike Iran potentially in the year 2026. Now that rumor might not be true or not, but these are wars or rumors of wars that we're in. So expect to see more tensions on going to continue to increase between Iran and Israel, which they had that little 12-day war that lasted for about 12 days in the month of June. And then you had the United States armies teamed up to use nuclear strikes in those facilities over there in Iran. So expect to see in the year 2026, the tensions are really going to stir up once again as before in the year 2025. So it's going to heat up once again in the year 2026. As it's been seen, as I mentioned again, so it's going to stir up between Iran versus Israel. And this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, that's what we hear, wars and rumors of wars. And the president of Iran was saying if they potentially get attacked once again from from the Israel Defense Force and the United States armies, if they potentially do another nuclear strike against someone again once again, Iran was saying they're going to be fully prepared this time. And they're going to respond largely decisively. They're going to respond largely decisively. So that's a sign of wars, rumors of wars are heating up now. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, that's what we hear on a daily basis, wars and rumors of wars. Now the stories might be true, and then sometimes it might be true. So, it's a back and forth balance thing. Because, everything's balanced to the side of Heavenly Father. And his only got son, Mashiach Shai. That's why Yahushua says there are going to be wars and rumors of wars. So as I mentioned again, so the tensions are only going to stir up between Iran and Israel and militaries. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not in trouble, for all these things must first come to pass, but then it's not yet. Right, so it's going to come to pass. I'm not going to interject. This is Matthew 24 and verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation. Right, that's what we see. Nation shall rise against nation. On and on, back and forth, tensions be heating up between Iran and the Israel Defense Force armies. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right, so on top of that, it's going to be earthquakes in diverse places, the increasing pestilence, increasing famines, the increasing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, which goes to effluence, and the modern day wars and rumors of wars are going to continue to increase. Like it was another news article I wanted to look out as well too. Versus Kazakhstan, I believe. Because I believe it's some type of border dispute was going on. Not the soccer team, or something about a border dispute. I think that's it right here. Yep, it says 5 people were unalive. So this is what you call it. or some people would. And this is a news article from Al Jazeera. It says, this is from news agencies from December 25th, 2025. It reads, it says 5 people were unalive in a firefight on Kazakhstan and Afghan border with Tajikistan. Says the incident is the third of its kind in recent weeks in which the Tajik border guards and civilians have been unalive. 5 people have been unalive in a fight between border guards and intruders on the Tajikistan border in Afghanistan. The Tajikistan Border Protection Agency says heavy armed raiders from Afghanistan crossed the Tajikistan at the villages of Kalabio in the Shamodini Khashoggi district on Tuesday and were located on Wednesday across to a statement by the border agencies published by Czech news agency Kalabio. The border agent says that the men attacked a guard post, unalived 2 border guards, and 3 of the intruders unalive in the ensuing gun battle. It says the agency said the incident was the third of its kind in recent weeks with the Tajik border guards, if I pronounced that right. It says civilians were unalive. The border guard secured the weapons and ammunition used by the intruders and the colliding grenades, 3 M16 rifles, and a Kalashnikov assault rifle, 3 foreign-made pistols or silencers, and 10 hand grenades, and a night vision scope, explosive, and other ammunition at the scene. Agency says the groups refused to obey orders from the Tajik border guards and surrendered in fear of armed resistance. They extended to carry out armed attacks on the border posts of the border troops. It says of the state committee for national security of the Republic of Tajikistan. The statement says the latest incident demonstrates the Taliban government failures to fulfill their international obligations and repeating commitments of ensuring security and stability alongside the state border with the Republic of Tajikistan and combating members of the group organizations, reflecting serious and recurrent irresponsibility. Statement added. It says an agency says that they expected an apology from the Afghan leadership. Tajikistan will defend its territorial integrity against the group's smugglers by all means, it added. Afghanistan has not commented on the incident. This is the book of Luke. Matter of fact, before I bring up that Luke, bring up that Matthew, the 24th chapter once again. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, right? The border dispute between Afghanistan and Tajikistan, cross-border dispute. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, which goes to ethnos, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. And this is the Gospel of Luke 21 in verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth, discretion of nations will perplexity rich born. Right, so let's be seeing discretion of nations will perplexities rich born. And Yahweh Shai showing us these signs in the skies as well too. And upon the earth, discretion of nations will perplexity rich born. St. Mark chapter 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, 7 kingdoms not stand. Right, so if a kingdom be divided, 7 kingdoms not stand. So we're gonna expecting wars, wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom on a daily basis. Bring out that second Ezra's. This is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 3. It says, therefore there should be seen earthquakes, upwards people world. Right, so that's what we see, increasing earthquakes and upwards people world. Second Ezra, the 15th chapter. This is the book of Second Ezra 15 verse 15. For the sword, we know the modern day swords, but for the sword, the discretion draweth nigh. And one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in hands. Right, so we see the sword and discretion draweth nigh among the nations. For the sword, the discretion draweth nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in hands. Right, so one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in hands. And this is a prime example. 5 people were unalive, and they fought a fight on Tajikistan-Afghan border. The Tajikistan says the incident is the third of its kind in recent weeks in which the Tajik border guards and civilians were unalive. Yep, second Edge 15 verse 16, for there should be sedition among men, right, as we see in sedition among men, it's going to come to full effect. For there should be sedition among men, hating one another. They should not regard their kings nor their princes, and of course action stand in power. Right, because you've been having faction groups trying to cross the borders between Afghanistan and Tajikistan, as we've been seeing. And this is the book of Second Ezra. Second Ezra 16 verse 7. For there shall be in every place in the next cities a great inspiration upon those who figure how. Right, it's going to be a great inspiration as well too. And we definitely been seeing throughout the years recently. We've been seeing signs of that. That's going to come to full effect. All right, let's go back to the news now. It says Trump speaks to Putin ahead of meeting with Zelensky. ABC News reports. It says Lavrov threatens Europe, says Western troops in Ukraine will be legitimate targets. Right, wars, rumors of wars. It says Russia provides Turkey with $9 billion in new finance of a Aklar nuclear plant. Right, because we're going to see more alliance with Russia and Turkey. That's the Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. It says Russia sends 3 Iranian satellites into orbit. Right, because we've been seeing the alliance between Russia and Iran as well too. It says Putin vows to achieve Ukrainian war goals by military means. Right, so if they don't come with a ceasefire deal, President Putin is going to continue with his goal, continue with the war with the Russia-Ukraine situation. Because you had both sides trying to push more and more towards a ceasefire deal. Because you had Zelensky, I believe today he's going to meet with President Trump over there in Florida, the Mar-a-Lago area in that region, over there in Florida, to meet with Donald Trump. See if they can push forth a ceasefire deal. It says Thai and Cambodian top diplomats meet in China to solidify ceasefire. Probably extended it because 72-hour ceasefire. So I think they're trying to extend it even more. So we're going to see how that plays out. It says that China expands nuclear warhead manufacturers capacity, research finds. Right, it's like North Korea, just like North Korea expanding on their nuclear capability. It's like China doing the same thing. Goes into that Joel 3rd chapter. It says Zelensky submit with Trump as efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine remains exclusive. Russian attacks Ukrainian with dozens of drones ahead of Zelensky's meeting. It says Turkey's defense sectors enter 2026 with naval progress and unresolved vulnerabilities from Al-Marti reports. It says from looming war to currency crash, Iran is 2025 on edge. It says an Iranian president said his country is at total war with U.S. and Israel and Europe reports got wars and rumors of wars. Let me get to that news article. It says those recent clashes, I think, over there in Syria. I think it was another clash. It says the recent clashes near the Syrian border involving ongoing tensions between the Kurdish-led Central Defense Force and Syrian government forces, particularly in Aleppo Kurdish neighborhoods, stemming from stalled integration deals with recent fighting involving shellings and checkpoints attacks. Despite ceasefire calls, simultaneously the unrest erupts in Syria's coastal Lakatalika Taurus, plus between the Al-Qaeda protesters and counter-demonstrators, resulting in unalives and injuries following a mosque bombing, adding that internal instability and border concerns were key areas of development. Aleppo, Kurdish areas, deadly clashes, including rockets and tank fire, it says erupting between the Syrian Democratic factors and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. Both sides blamed each other for attacks on checkpoints, despite the March agreement for the Central Defense Force integration in the Syrian army. The Syrian coast protests by the Alawite minority turns violent and clashes and attacks on the security forces and civilians led to casualties. The Turkish involvement, a top Turkish involvement visit to Damascus to discuss Syrian Defense Force integrations with regional stability, urging the Kurds to cooperate. The highlighting Turkish security concerns, the underlying issue, the stalled integrations, a major point to contend in the delayed integrations of the Syrian Defense Forces into the Syrian stated structure. With a year-end deadline miss, internal unrest, recent violence on the coast shows growing internal instability, with protesters erupting after a mosque bombing. Regional tensions and borders concerns remains, including the Israeli actions in southern Syria and instability fueled by drug trafficking and separatist movement. These clashes highlight the complexity of the situation with internal power struggles and stall the agreement in regional dynamics impacting Syria's fragile stability. Yep, of course, people will. Back to that second Ezra's 15 verse 15. It says, for the sword the discretion draws nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in hands, while those heavy border disputes over there in Syria over there recently, for the past week and a half or so. Second Ezra's 15 verse 16, for there should be sedition among men, right cross-border clashes between over there in Syria, between different factors, proxy groups and different organization factors over there in that region. It says, for there should be sedition among men, invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor their princes, and of course action stand in their power. This is second address. Right, so despite that deal they had in the month of March, so you've been seeing cross-border clashes heating up over there in the area. Over there in Syria, it says second address 9 verse 3. Therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes, uproars people world. Right, so this is an example of uproars people world with the recent clashes over there in Syria and recent clashes over there in the Tajikistan, Afghanistan border, and different other clashes that's taking place around the world, over there in Myanmar, over there in Sudan, and different parts around the world that we see increasing. Yep, once again, second Edge 9 verse 3. Therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes and upwards people world, right, so more increase in upwards people world, so they will continue to increase. And this is Luke 21. Luke 21 and verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth, expressive nations will perplex sea rich one. Matthews, matter of fact, Ecclesiasticus. Yep, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time in every person in heaven. Right, so we're living in modern day times of seasons in every person in heaven, which is modern day biblical signs and the signs of times. Go to verse 8. Yeah, drop down to verse 8. This is Ecclesiasticus 3, verse 8. And a time to love, and a time of HATE, and a time of war, and a time of peace. Now, we do see the nation trying to push more towards peace, but at the same time, we still see the HATE and the war are increasing. Because now everything's a balance inside everybody. This is Matthews. Yep, this is the Gospel of Matthews. And verse 25, it says, And Yahushua knew their thoughts were the hearts of their mind, and he said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Right, and as we're seeing on and on back and forth, which is only going to continue to increase. This is the Gospel of Luke 12. Yep, this is the Gospel of Luke 12, verse 51. Yahushua speaking. Suppose ye that I come to give peace on earth, I take neighbor every division. Right, so Yahushua says, think not that I come to send peace on earth, I take neighbor every division. So tension is only going to stir up between these other nations. So you're going to see more proxy groups, more uproars, people world, more seditions, more modern day ruler against modern day ruler, more nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and more wars and rumors of wars. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. For when they shall say peace is safe, right? So even if they do peace deals, trust agreements, push for more peace deals, because you're still gonna have wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, seditions, uprisings, uproars, people world, modern day rule against modern rule. That's still gonna continue to increase because we still living in modern day biblical signs and signs of times. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, and Apostle Paul reads, and Apostle Paul writes, it says, For when they shall say peace is safe, such shall come upon them, as it shall be when the child shall not escape. Right, so the prophecies are not going to go on void, it's going to continue going forth. See some news articles from Time of Israel. It says Israel, Greece ciphers deeply military ties with new trilateral agreement. It says in the U.S., Netanyahu aims to convince Trump that only threat of war can bring peace. Hey, just like I brought up that 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, for when they shall say peace is safe, such shall come upon them as it shall be when the child shall not escape. It says Netanyahu departs from U.S. to meet with Trump on gospel plan has no intentions. The Prime Minister schedules to meet with Rubio ahead of the U.S. President on Monday. What this shit on up? It's follow. Back to the news article. Yeah. It says that the defense ministry has an IDF first combat ready iron beam laser interceptor system. A high power aerial defense system has successfully intercepted rockets, mortars, and drones in the testing set to absorb by the IDF air forces. Right, so they're going to continue to use that in combat, and it goes to that Joe in the 3rd chapter. It says violent protesters erupted as Bengar towards the Eldom town targeting in recent raids. It says brothers of group who unalived to a ramming attack found illegally inside Israel. It says the arm says the full curfew remains in effect in West Bank. It says a day after a northern assault house sealed off attacker released from hospital handed in shame balance for integration. It says two unalive in the attack in northern Israel. Assailants shot injured by pass-by, probably about a pass-by civilian, probably. So definitely we're gonna be seeing, which we're so used to seeing it. So expect to see more increasing protesters. Because you've been having over there in those different villages over there. You've been having those far right small hats been doing protests against those Palestinians over there in that area. So what's this is as I mentioned again, we so used to seeing that clashes between both sides. So expect to see more continue. Now, despite the fact you have the representation from the Palestine and the Israel Defense Force, even though they're about to enter the second phase of the deal that they signed, I would say like a couple months back, if I'm not mistaken. So despite they entering the second phase of the peace plan deal that they made, that was proposed from the Trump administration. Now, despite the fact of all that, but you're still going to have increasing tensions heating up between the resistance of the Palestinians going against the Israel Defense Force throughout that whole region. Over there in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the Palestinian territory, over there in Lebanon. So the tensions are only going to continue to increase. And this is a news article. This is from the Time of Israel, updated from live blog of Sunday, December 28th, 2025. It reads, Bastave Levington, if I pronounce that right, today at 7:45 p.m. Notice the time zones are kind of different over there in West Asia compared over to here in the United States. It says Israel, Greece, Cyprus deepening military ties with new trilateral meeting. It says Israel, Greece, and Cyprus signed a trilateral work plan for military cooperation for 2026 last week. The IDF announced a move that further deepened security coordinates amongst Turkish regional rivals in the East Mediterranean. It said the agreement signed in Cyprus also includes bilateral work plans between the Israel Defense Force, Greece, Hellenistic Armed Forces, and Cypriot National Guard, and covered joint exercise and training working groups across a range of fields in strategic military dialogue and shared security challenges, according to the military. Last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted a Greek Prime Minister and the Cyprus President in Jerusalem, using the meeting to deliver a point message towards Ankara. That's key right there. Yep, towards Ankara. Yep. It says using a meeting a delivered point message towards Ankara, which is the president of Turkey. Because I remember not that long ago, I think it was like 2 months ago or a month ago, about the president of Turkey was mentioned about the increase in corruption about the Israel Defense Force. Prime Minister Netanyahu, he wanted him, be arrested or something like that. So the tension between Turkey and Israel is going to increase once again. It says that standing alongside leaders, Netanyahu warned that those who facilitate that can reestablish their empires, they dominion over the hands, should forget it. In a thinly reference to Turkey. Earlier this month, Greece media reported that Israel, Greece, and Cyprus were examining the establishment of a joint rapid response military force in the Eastern Mediterranean, amid growing concerns about athletes over Turkey's expanding military posture. It says, and that makes perfect sense as well too, because you're still gonna have the ongoing tensions between Turkey versus Israel, especially you got military building up from the Israel Defense Force over there in the Golan Heights. Border dispute over there between the borders of Israel and Syria as well too. So despite the fact Turkey having gone against those proxy groups, sooner or later they're gonna settle their differences. They're gonna be targeting the Israel Defense Force over there in Syria. So that right along with those amending tensions as well too. I just want to add a side note to that. It says establishing of a growing rapid military response, military forces in the Eastern Mediterranean, amending growing, right, that's the key word, amending growing concerns in Athens over Turkey's expanding military posture, right, Turkey's expanding military posture. The Israel Defense Force of the IDF says its newly signed plans are extending to bolster stability, security, and peace in the Mediterranean region. That's not going to be the case. Yeah, First Thessalonians 5 verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, such discretion come upon them as a cherubim and child shall not escape. Hey, so there's no peace in the Middle East. What's the old saying? Hey, so there's no peace in Western Asia. Yep, once again, Joel chapter 3 verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty man. Right, because you got all these nations signing military deals, military cooperation deals, just in case the amending tensions they have against their rivals. That's that agreement that they signed with Greece and Cyprus, and I think Israel signed a deal with Greece and Cyprus of the ongoing growing tensions that they have against Turkey. So that shows what mindset these armies and nations are in. They before putting that mindset on them. Hey, so as I mentioned again countless of times, you're gonna have more military exercise drills, more military spending, more military training. So all this gonna lead up to tensions on heat up throughout that whole region over there in Western Asia. Joel chapter 3 verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty man, let all the men in war draw near and become up. Joel 3 verse 10, eat your plowshares and the swords and the pointers at the spears. Oh, what's up, Mark?
Find out what to do to him now. I got it. I tried it last night a different way and it didn't work. Okay, I got it down perfect too. You can't go with I can't do heat level 3. As soon as we come up, I gotta go do another race, stack some more money, then go do 3. And then if I do it early and don't get no more heat on it, and then up top, when I go to that heat race, they're gonna let me chase me around. I gotta do it systematically and get right, hit. I can't stop. You can't stop. You stop. I didn't get you. You don't get you. She gotta carry her motherfucking jug so she can pee because she can't get out the car.
Right, get out the car.
And I eat no motherfucking waffles because we ain't got no toilet in the car. There's a turd with a point on both ends. You was in trouble.
Mama had some of you, man. Mama had some of you. See some of you. See some of you. Some of me, see some of you. You gotta get the stepping. Too early. She wants you.
Awesome.
That's what I mean. See some of you.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
The system that failed to protect Bridget is guilty. The police who told Patrick there was nothing they could do are guilty. The gang culture that recruits teenagers and sends them into the streets to prove themselves is guilty. The poverty and lack of opportunity that makes gang membership attractive is guilty. The society that creates these conditions and then acts shocked when violence erupts is guilty. But guilt, like revenge, is easy to distribute and hard to resolve. It doesn't bring back 6 dead young men. It doesn't reunite a shattered family. It doesn't make Bridget sleep easier at night. It just is, sitting heavy in the air like Chicago wind off the lake, cold, relentless, and always there. If this story made you think about justice, revenge, and the price we pay to protect those we love, leave your light to help more people find it. Share this with someone who understands that real stories don't have easy answers, only complicated questions. Comment what you think. Was Patrick O'Reilly a father protecting his family, or a murderer who destroyed it? Did he do what any parent would do? Or did he cross a line that should never be crossed? There's no right answer. And that's exactly the conversation we need to have. Subscribe to Justice Reports for more true stories that challenge what we think we know about right and wrong, about law and morality, about how far we go when the system fails us. Because these stories aren't just from the past. They're happening right now in forgotten neighborhoods across America, where families face impossible choices and justice is just a word on a courthouse wall, allegedly. And if you ever find yourself in Patrick O'Reilly's situation, if the system fails you, if you have to decide between protecting your family and staying within the law, remember that revenge has a price that gets paid long after the immediate threat is gone. The price is measured in destroyed families, in children who change their names, in years spent in concrete cells, in the knowledge that your protection became their trauma. Patrick O'Reilly is in Stateville Correctional Center, cell F238, reading a book about the Battle of Hughes City that he participated in 54 years ago. Outside, Chicago continues. McCarthy's pub